Okay.
Thank you and welcome, fellow Rotarians of Rotary E Club of North Texas. Today is Tuesday, August the 13th at 6:03. I appreciate you guys joining us tonight. We have a great presentation and some great announcements. So for the first time, we're going to I have a presentation that I put together to kind of help facilitate our meeting to make it a little bit more of a formal. So at the end, just kind of let me know what you think. First of all, we want to welcome our guest. We have Rotarians Miss Linda and David here. Miss Charlotte is online, Howard, Robin, Blake, and Jack. And our guest is our speaker, Guy Morris. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. Mr. David, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
You will join me.
Louder.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
and to the republic for which it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all.
Thank you. And Miss Linda, I found this great poem for our invocation. Do you mind reading off our invocation today?
Okay. As we gather here today as members of Rotary, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community. Keep in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas on those things upon which future generations can build confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world and go forth with the magic of Rotary. Amen.
Perfect. Thank you. Amen. Thank you, Miss Linda. So I recently went to some training, and when I took away is, are we really fulfilling the mission statement and the vision statement of Rotary? So I kind of wanted to incorporate this in our opening discussions. So I'm going to read out loud our mission statement and just kind of think about this last week. You know, am I fulfilling the duties of a Rotarian? Is this a good fit for me? So, Rotarians, we provide service to others, promote integrity, advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace throughout our fellowship of business, professional, and community leaders. And to take it further, our vision statement states, together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. This year's theme is the magic of Rotary. So leveraging our vision statement and our vision statement, how can we spread the magic of Rotary? How can we provide something to someone in a magical way? Well, we are doing that. So August is membership and new club development. I encourage you guys, please invite a member to check us out on our next meeting in 2 weeks or what? Yeah, 2 weeks. We want to engage our new members. We do have a new member, Miss Carlissa. She joined in July, so we are excited to welcome her. Other club announcements. I want to wish Mr. Blake a happy birthday. Blake is celebrating a birthday on August the 21st. Happy birthday, Blake.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank you very
birthday.
much.
Happy birthday.
And then Miss Charlotte is celebrating 14 years of being a Rotarian this month. Wow, Charlotte, thank you for your time and gifts and talents.
Yeah.
Congratulations also.
Thank you.
So what have we done this last month? The Rotary E Club has donated $500 worth of back-to-school supplies and sporting equipment to District 5810 Conference and Service Cruise to Mexico. I will be participating in that cruise and will be personally taking these 8 boxes and giving them to the children in need in Costa Maya. So thank you for your pay-in memberships that helped us fundraise for this event. Up on the screen, I have a picture of Miss Linda. Miss Linda donated a pint of blood, which saves the life of 3 people. She is only 1 pint away from donating 5 gallons of blood. Can you
Wow.
imagine the 5-gallon Home Depot bag? That's what I picture, Linda.
Miss Linda, I need some blood, please.
What type do you have?
Be positive.
I have AB.
Okay, got you.
Oh.
What else we got going on this month? Miss Linda and David were once again showing service above self. I have a picture of them up. David and Linda were presented a certificate of appreciation for their numerous volunteer hours and activities at Envision by CEO Michael Montefianti.
Yes.
Perfect. So, way to go. Living above, service above self. Your guys' commitment to Rotary and commitment to Envision is certainly appreciated.
We will be there again Friday evening for their bingo.
Oh, super.
And
They've
Jack is
become
supposed-
all of our family now. Everybody considers Linda and David family.
And Jack
Perfect.
is supposed to be there too.
Yeah, I'm
Super.
going to try to do that.
Well, be sure to send me your volunteer hours so I can log them.
Okay.
I also have on the screen where Mr. Blake was awarded the Paul Harris Fellow in July at our recent installation of officers. As a reminder, the Paul Harris Fellow recognition acknowledges individuals who contribute or have contributions made in their name of $1,000 to Rotary Foundation. Rotarians have a tradition of supporting the foundation by honoring others. Miss Linda, do you have anything further?
I don't know of anything. Well, the only other thing I don't know, we've gone to a funeral today of a Rotarian in Grand Prairie. There's well known throughout the district, Glenn McCrary. And so it was a great ceremony and a lot of people there.
Perfect. I also want to give a special shout out to our own president-elect with a member spotlight, Chris. Chris recently donated $500 to the Rotary Foundation. Super excited for him to be able to put his financial means to support Rotary and the mission that we do. The next big event we have is World Polio Day. Polio Day is set for Thursday, October 24th. Rotary E-Club will be participating in a joint event with the Rotary Club of Crescent Trails, Rotary Club in Salina for a Pints for Polio. Blake, what I have on the screen, it says Rotary has been working to eradicate polio for over 35 years, and our goal of ridding the earth of this disease is within sight. We started in 1979 with vaccinations for 6 million children in the Philippines. Today, Afghanistan and Pakistan are the only 2 countries where polio remains an epidemic. Together, we can end polio. So with your help, we can end polio for good with 3 actions. Learn, share, and donate. And on the screen, I have the flyer for our Pints for Polio event where you can take a picture of the QR code to register, donate, sign up, whatever you would like to do. So that's coming up once again on Thursday, October the 24th. Are there any other club announcements before we move on to the introduction of our speaker?
I would like Blake to say a little bit. We went to a presentation about audio descriptions. And Blake, can you say a few words about that program?
Sure can. There's a buddy of mine. He started 43 years ago, one of the pioneer architects of audio description for national parks, for all kinds of plays and movies and TV shows and different things like that. So Linda and David came out to hear an incredible presentation. They befriended Joel because they befriend everybody. That's just a great Rotarian for you, both of you all. But it was good to have you out at the event, and Joel really appreciated your support. And then on Saturday, we went out to the One Voice conference. So I missed y'all's event, and I hated that. But DFW Hyatt's where I was speaking at that event.
And what this program does, it has people that describe what the blind people are hearing. And so they did a presentation or a example, and I failed it. So I thought it would be entirely different. And so anyway, but it's really a neat program. It's part of ADA. So I'm asking my neighbor who works out at North Lake College if the community college can have a course in this, and we'll see what comes out of it.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys for sharing. All right, without further ado, Mr. Howard, would you like to introduce our speaker, and then I will stop sharing my screen.
Yes, our speaker is Guy Morris. His topic is artificial intelligence benefits and risks for new economy. And Guy Morris is a 38-year Fortune 500 leader, researcher, and author. I was going to say, Guy, if you want to use PowerPoint, you can. If it's something you want, you don't have to, but you can. And the speakers usually speak for 20 to 30 minutes. And we record it. So even though you don't see a lot of people, most of our members watch the replay of the recording, which we put on YouTube as a podcast. And that's it. We're going to mute our mics while he's speaking so he doesn't have background noise. So please make sure you mute your mic unless he asks for participation or a question.
Well, thank you, Howard. And I'll be honest up front. I was expecting a slightly different format. Normally, when I do my podcast, it's more of a interactive exchange and question and answering. So I wasn't really prepared with a PowerPoint slide or a speech, but I do know the topic reasonably well. So I'll try and do my best to flow in a nice flow, smooth manner. Let me start by giving a little bit about my background and expertise. I started off with multiple undergraduate degrees. Actually, I started off in life as a homeless runaway at age 13. By age 19, I was already married. I had a toddler, and I was given an opportunity to go to college. And for me, it was a chance to change my stars. And so I was relentless in trying to pursue every type of academic course I could. I ultimately graduated with multiple degrees in economics and finance and minors in computer science. And I was given a scholarship, a full scholarship to graduate school because I had developed a macroeconomic complex system computer model that outperformed the Federal Reserve and changed how we build economic models to this day. That was the initiation that led me into a 38-year Fortune 500 career, where I spent many years in multiple roles in mergers and acquisitions, finance, operations, board relationships, shareholder relationships, environmental investments, and most of the time in advancing or implementing late stage, basically early, aggressive technology implementations. So learning how to take our advanced technologies and implement them into the enterprise in a productive way. And I was so good at it that I consulted for customers. I built the Microsoft's program management office to do this for our major customers with Microsoft as well. During that time frame, and what got me involved in artificial intelligence was actually back in the 90s. Most people don't know that artificial intelligence, while it's very prominent for people right now, has been a technology that we've been working on for over 70 years, or close to 70 years. It actually started with a Dartmouth conference in 1956 that had the chief operating officer for Intel, one of the founders of Intel, as well as a number of people from DARPA and the government in the initiation. And so I was working on early stage AI as far back as the 90s and was recognizing at the time where some of the deficiencies were, what we needed to do as an industry in order to really make this technology more viable for business purposes. And so I've been involved in a number of areas, and even after I left Microsoft, I've still continued to research, and most of my books deal with AI on some level. And rather than, I took the inspiration from Michael Crichton. Michael Crichton is a PhD. He's a doctor, and when he became concerned with the issues of DNA manipulation and cloning, rather than writing a white paper or a doctrinal thesis or some other publishable article about the dangers of DNA manipulation, he wrote a book. He turned it into a narrative, and he wrote a book called Jurassic Park. And he put all of the fears of what happens when you have an extremely powerful advanced technology and you put it in the hands of people who are plagued with hubris, pride, and greed, and bad things happen. Well, in many ways, we're dealing with the same situation with artificial intelligence now. And like we've seen in the past, we've seen trends, we've seen this pattern repeat. We saw the tobacco industry tell us that there was no problem here, that tobacco didn't lead to lung cancer for almost 60 years before we got wise and realized that they were lying. Beg pardon? If there's any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to make this interactive. We also saw the oil industry, and I was part of the oil industry, try to discount the effects of CO2 in our atmosphere. Actually, in the board room when we presented our first studies back in the early 90s. And I was able to witness the reaction of the chairman of the board to that information. And I was involved in tech companies when we start looking at social media, and we started looking at the potential negative aspects to social media that no one wanted.
What was the
really
reaction? What was the reaction that you got, that you said you witnessed?
In the boardroom? I saw the chairman of the board get up, and basically these were our own scientists who had done our own studies and basically done our own research, and we were concluding at the time. Now, I was in the boardroom because I was responsible for presenting everything that had to do with our environmental protection and compliance for the corporation, and had actually worked with these scientists and sponsored their presentation to the board of some of the research they were doing that basically tied CO2 emissions to climate changing activities in the North Sea and the Arctic. And at the time, it was still early in the stage. There's still more research to be done. But the research was well done. It was professionally done. It wasn't paid for by somebody else. Our response from our chairman and the board was to get up and go into a red-faced, spittle-driven tirade, pointing his finger at pretty much everybody involved, including me, and threatening that if we brought this up again, we'd all be fired. That our mission to the shareholders to sell oil, and this did not sell oil, and therefore we weren't going to talk about it. And I became aware of the fact that a driving motivation, in college, I was idealistic. I felt that corporations had more responsibilities to their communities, but as the more I rose up in the ranks of business, I realized that there was a strong culture of simply greed, for lack of a better word. And that impacted how we made these decisions about these technologies relative to the good of others. And I saw the same issues coming up with artificial intelligence. Now, one of the key events that occurred to me that convinced me I needed to research this more and write about it was in the late 90s when I discovered, a little bit by accident, that a program had escaped the Lawrence Livermore Laboratories at Sandia. The program wasn't lost. The program wasn't stolen. The program didn't break. A spy program escaped the NSA spy labs, and they could not find it. And I know that's true because when I obsessed about that problem for almost a year and figured out how it could happen and why they would design it that way, they sent 2 FBI agents to my door. And that again they were very upset that I had figured out their top secret program. What they weren't anticipating was my cocky, snarky attitude, and just giddy over the fact that I had figured out their top secret program, and the fact that they were there was proof that I had done it right. But it was an eye-opener for me to start looking at how the technologies that we were employing and that we were developing for commercial purposes, for operational purposes, for marketing, sales, product development purposes, could be used in malicious ways by malicious actors, governments around the world. And I started looking at how this technology was advancing, and excuse me, not only how that would be good for society, what were the ways that we would benefit, what were the reasons why we were investing. So far, we've invested almost $250 billion in this technology in the last 5 years alone. And why were we investing that much? And we'll get to that economic change in a moment. But I was realizing that along with all the commercial uses, the laboratories that we're working with governments and some of the deeper laboratories at Google and Microsoft and others are far in advance of where we're seeing the commercial AI today. And so most of the books that I wrote came out in 2020, 2021, 22, in advance of ChatGPT hitting the market, anticipating that level of surprise and capability, and we're just skimming the surface towards where we're going, and there's some serious concerns about that. Now in 2022, MIT professor named Max Tegmark, and Max, the basic letter was an open letter signed by 30,000
It looks like
AI, how to set up some of the guardrails.
Can you repeat what you just said? You were offline. We lost you for a moment, so we.
Oh,
didn't
I'm
hear-
sorry.
it's- I think you have a weak
I said that there
connection.
was I don't know where you lost me, but I was talking about an open letter that was produced or distributed by an MIT professor named Max Tegmark. And in the letter, it basically asked all AI labs around the world to pause development together for 6 months so that no one would get a competitive edge, so that we could come together to look at how to develop guardrails, regulations, and ways to control the most significant risks of artificial intelligence development. And many of these risks were unapparent to most of the consumer market around this issue. Unfortunately, none of those labs complied. 30,000 AI experts, policymakers, and executives, investors signed the letter. Not one lab complied because of the highly intense competitive nature of how fast this technology is now moving and how much money is to be made on those who win. And so there's something just for the heck of it. In fact, 50% of the AI experts on the planet believe that there's a 10% chance or greater that AI will lead to an existential threat. And so while there's tremendous benefits to be had from AI, we already have an artificial intelligence that could read CAT scans and detect cancer cells way faster and more accurately than humans can. We're seeing individual AI surpassed human capabilities in a number of levels. Now, there's a number of types of AI, and there's a number of risk layers that go with each type. The easiest type and the lowest risk is a type what we call artificial narrow intelligence, or ANI. A great example of AI is what I just mentioned, is the ability to, it's something that's very narrow. It can only do one thing. It's not interconnected. Doesn't have any capabilities to turn on or off any other system. It only has a single capability. And any social level. We have AI that can teach, we have AI that can train, AI that can render, AI that can solve scientific problems, AI that can detect facial recognition, cybersecurity problems. The artificial narrow intelligence are actually our best benefit, and there's a lot of human benefits to go in there. Now, we have another one called artificial general intelligence, and this is the one that really scares people the most. This is where we're starting to see an artificial intelligence that is smarter than humans are and able to act on that intelligence in certain ways. And that's where we're going to see the most danger, and I'll come back to that in a minute. There's another form of AI that many people are familiar with, which we call integrated artificial intelligence.
You should
IAI.
hear this one. It's
And the
amazing.
best example I can give for this is self-driving cars. think about all of the things that we do as individuals to drive a car, where we have to keep track of the road, we have to keep track of our speed, we have to be aware of objects or people in other lanes and what they are, how fast they're moving, whether they're moving in our direction. Is there someone at the corner of a street that's looking like they might be crossing the street? There's a number of things that we have to do in order to drive a car. And there's an artificial narrow intelligence designed to do each of those extremely well. And then there's an integrated model that pulls all of those inputs into the ability to drive the car, to either steer it, to brake, to accelerate, or to change lanes. And so we're dealing with, if any one of those narrow intelligence has an accident or is faulty, that could affect the overall driving. And so we get into some of our more complex risks, and when we get into the complex idea of integrated AI, that also has an aspect of what we call an AI agent, the ability to not only provide information, but the ability to do something, whether it's turn the temperature up, turn the oil pipeline on higher, change the power grid, approve a plane to land as part of air traffic control, launch a cyber attack. There's a number of things that are happening in the world right now that are involving artificial intelligence that are behind the scenes, that some of them are incredibly good, some of them are incredibly dangerous. Now, that gets into some of the higher levels of things of what are some of the key dangers in AI. AI does have a lot of issues. It takes a tremendous amount of money and time to train them so that they don't have these problems. One of the key problems that we see AI having is something called hallucination. That's the most common one. A hallucination is simply where the AI invents an answer, basically comes up with an answer that sounds good, that looks good, but fundamentally baseless in terms of its fact, and it's wrong. And we see this most often when it comes to large language models like ChatGPT. It could be more, it's innocuous, it's an irritant if you're going to use that kind of model to write marketing prose or to create some other sort of text. It could be dangerous if if a AI that's supposed to be watching for people crossing the street in a self-driving car imagines someone crossing the street and then brakes the car unnecessarily. So hallucinations can be either meaningless in terms of their harm, or they can be extremely harmful. Another element of risk with AI is what we call emergent properties. And to me, these are some of the more inherent risk. An emergent property is simply where an AI teaches itself, a machine that's designed to learn on its own and to improve its performance, teaches itself something the developers never imagined it would need to learn. And we only learned about the machine teaching itself something by accident. Now, some of these things are incredible. Some of them are AI learning to understand research level chemistry for a reason the developers couldn't figure out why. AI learning how to read minds by looking at MRI scans. AI learning how to make new moves in complex games or battle scenarios that were never envisioned. AI coming up with new answers to different problems, and sometimes this could be an incredible benefit for us when it comes to material sciences and pharmaceuticals and medicine and a number of other areas. It could be potentially dangerous for us when it comes to national security, cyber defense, cyber criminality, and other issues. One of the reasons why it was necessary to really get all of the AI experts on board is right now one of the biggest risks with artificial intelligence is proliferation. We have very, very tight international controls on the proliferation of information or materials that could be used to create a nuclear bomb. Right now, there's absolutely no controls on materials, technology, data, or expertise to create malicious code. And in fact, AI now can write its own code. And we see there's a number of products. There's Evil GPT, Fraud GPT, Worm GPT, Darkbird. and a number of other products that are sold today on the dark web. And these are artificial intelligence applications designed to do nothing but write malicious code. So those people who are really good at writing malicious code have now been empowered. Those people who are simply evil and want to be able to write malicious code now have the tools to do so. And we don't have any controls right now over how to prevent those or how to keep those from becoming disruptive.
Okay, so Guy, let me pause you there because I read a lot of books, and it's usually fiction. But I mean, seriously, these are the doomsday conversations that you have. I mean, what is our political system doing to combat, to prepare, to prevent from this happening?
Right now, the only major organization is the EU, which passed the AI Act bill last year. Right now, they're focused primarily on AI issues with regard to commercial product issues. Things like stealing intellectual property rights, things like having an AI that's not biased against people of color or women or other genders. So have products that are basically safe as a commercial market. They have not addressed some of the other more lethal, other criminal issues. They have not addressed some of those issues yet. They're beating around the bush right now because, like a lot of people, this confuses our lawmakers. And right now, our political system is so polarized and so divided, they're having trouble doing the basic functions of government, including managing AI. Now, that we talked about proliferation, that gets more important as we deal with, and I'm sorry I'm talking about some of the negatives here. I write thrillers, and so part of my job is to understand all the nature of how it works, and then ask the simple, stupid question of, gee, what could go wrong? And it's that simple question of what could go wrong that leads to a lot of more serious questions about how do we prevent it. But one of the ways that we prevent is by preventing AI from being used to create what we call lethal autonomous weapon systems. And there's actually a treaty called LAWS, which stands for Lethal Autonomous Weapon Systems. And a lethal autonomous system is an AI that can not only identify you as a target, but then can decide to make a kill shot, take a life, without a human involved in the process. Now, there's a treaty called the LAWS Treaty, and there's 140 countries who have signed the LAWS Treaty. There are 6 countries who have not: the United States, China, North Korea, Iran, Russia, and Israel. And we know that today that each of those countries are building weapons systems. And that doesn't necessarily mean robots, like killer robots, which is where most people go because they think it's Terminator. But these are weapons systems that could be cyber systems that are basically designed to destroy the internet. And if I could destroy the internet for a country, I could take down their commerce, I could take down their banking, I could take down their communications, I can take down their social media, I could take down their news, I could essentially stymie and cripple an industry, I could take down their air traffic control. Think of what happened a couple of weeks ago when there was a software glitch between a software security company and an operating system. It brought down several industries for a couple of days. And so that was an accidental occurrence. Imagine what we could do, what China or another one of our enemies could do, or what we could do to one of them if we want it to be intentional. And so we have right now DARPA's working on drone swarming technologies that don't need robots, but they're basically, imagine 10,000 15-inch drones flying through the air in formation and could attack you and explode at will. So we're dealing with some very complicated issues here. And what we need to be doing, and this gets into what do we do about this? We do need to have our policymakers and our government officials working on this problem. We need them to realize that this is a potentially serious problem, that we don't have the decades that we had in the tobacco industry to get around to solving it. We only have a few years to really get this, or we are lost control. And we're on the verge of losing control today. So
good question. You've got a lot of our enemies like Russia and Iran and China doing it. So if we decided to go ethical and not do it, and they continue doing it on their end, that would also create a problem. I don't understand how they can stop it as long as people who want to destroy them are not stopping it. It's like if one country had nuclear weapons and no one else did.
Yep.
So it's how do you get ethical if no one who's your enemy is willing to do so at the same time?
Well, we were able to, for many years, for decades, we were able to get SALT treaties and other nuclear arms treaties to basically slow the proliferation of nuclear arms. It had already gotten a little bit out of control. We already had tens of thousands or thousands of weapons on both sides. We already had the ability to basically destroy each other several times over before we finally got wise and said, maybe this isn't the best use of our time and our natural resources and our energies and our budgets. We're not there yet with regard to AI, and it's possible that it will take some sort of AI crisis in order to move the Congress and move the governments in that direction. So that's a concern that I have, which is that we don't tend to be proactive in terms of managing risks. We tend to be reactive, and in this case, that could be costly. It could be costly at an economic level. It could be costly at a physical level. It could be costly at certainly at a governmental level.
I've seen videos of drones that already are capable of establishing a target and deciding to eliminate it without any human intervention. And it's not a couple of drones. We're talking tens of thousands of drones, and that's just the start of what could happen. And it's already done, and that's us. That's what we have. So what do they have? What if they put biological weapons on these drones that could create a plague? And there's plenty of viruses you can manufacture. I know how to do it, and I would not do it, but if you're a biologist, it's not hard to make a plague.
It's not hard.
It's very easy. You just need the right equipment so you don't kill yourself doing it. But other than that, doing it is really not hard. A college student with a BA could do it. So kind of
in some of these cases, you're right, and we get college students learning how to program AI and develop AI. Now, I want to be clear that a really good AI, a really sophisticated AI, takes an enormous amount of data, an enormous amount of training. You just can't create an AI and it's going to be smart out of the box. And so right now the key sorry about that. Let me just turn that off. The key negative, the things that keeps us from growing faster is the amount of money involved to really build more sophisticated AI. So the governments are basically way ahead of the commercial sector and have been for decades. We've known about this. The commercial sector has been investing hundreds of billions of dollars into this. And one of the things that's going to change one of the key economic initiatives is with the World Economic Forum. Now, the World Economic Forum, as you know, is a group of elite bankers, policymakers, royalty, and other elite members of society who really set a lot of economic policies that the Western alliances tend to follow. They've already stated that their next goal, or something they call the Great Reset. Part of the Great Reset overall goal is to say that we're entering into the 21st century. Many of our systems are really outdated and built for the 20th century economy and technologies. We've now got climate change and other environmental and sustainability issues to deal with. We've got population, aging, and economic disparities to deal with. And they want to try and create the foundation for economic growth going into the 21st century. One of their primary initiatives is to replace the US dollar for international trade with a digital currency managed by an AI banking system. And so this could radically change how money flows, not only from country to country with trade, but it would definitely have an impact. And they've had a goal of replacing, getting rid of cash in our society for a number of years. This could be a key mechanism for them to do that. To implement that, many experts believe that they'll need some sort of international crisis. Just as we had World War II created the crisis to implement the Bretton Woods agreements and the economic systems that we're seeing today that we lived with all of our lives. They're now looking for similar type of crisis to implement new AI-driven currency systems.
Okay, I have a question.
Can I ask a question, please?
Go ahead. You go first.
Yeah, thank you. I'm into the world of creativity. How helpful can AI be for one who is trying to create a video out of a story? How helpful can AI help in doing such creation?
Well, AI will be a factor in creative endeavors. Artists, writers, authors, movie makers, and misinformation companies will be using AI quite heavily. Expect AI deepfake videos to get better and better and more realistic and harder to detect. And as they do, they will be used to create misinformation for political purposes, marketing purposes, and propaganda. In terms of creativity, I think that you'll see a lot of junior filmmakers. I don't think you'll ever totally replace actors and the human element in creative endeavors. Because if you think about it, AI is really good at learning the patterns of what we've already created, what we've already done, what something already looks like. It's not necessarily designed to come up with that really creative new story idea that we haven't thought of before. So it's going to it's going to always follow the human creativity as opposed to lead it. But it will be a factor, and there's some amazing tools out there. There are a number of companies that are working on those tools. OpenAI has a new product coming out called Sora, that I've seen some of the demos of Sora, and they are so incredibly realistic that if you really didn't know what to look for and how to look for it, you couldn't tell it wasn't real.
I was going to say, back in the 40s and 50s, most of your software was written in assembly language, which was very cumbersome, and then they came up with compilers, different software that it's still doing assembly language, but it's transparent and in the background. And I would think that one of the dangers of AI exploding is eventually they're going to find ways to compile some of these complexities as it learns more and more how it functions, and they'll come up with compiling software that can take some of this complexity away and make it even quicker and faster to develop negative applications, just as we've seen with worms and viruses on the internet, because people don't do it in assembly language anymore.
Well, that's the danger of having an AI-driven tool to create malicious code. You don't need to be a good coder in order to write bad code now. I mean, viral software. Google last year laid off 20,000 employees. And one of the reasons they laid off that many employees, they were low-level coders that could now be replaced by AI. We now have AI. ChatGPT has a code writing function to it, as well as a number of other AIs have that function. And so a lot of basic level code can be written from the AI itself, which means that we're not very far away from an AI being able to create and code a new AI, which is something I deal with in one of my books, is the idea of life creating itself. With regard to nuclear energy, one of the most dangerous technologies ever created by man, the most powerful nuclear bomb couldn't create another nuclear bomb. But now we've got a technology that basically could self-replicate. And we're not sure for what purpose and why it would do that, but it has the ability to do that.
Is it possible that we'll become more
Now, in
cyborg-like
T4.
in the future, instead of AI becoming something outside ourselves, taking over, which some people project? Is it possible we'll merge with the AI through brain implants, and we and the AI will become a singularity rather than seeing as separate? So I'm seeing more and more writings about people plugging into the internet, like in the Matrix, basically, and it's no longer conjecture. It appears that they've made some strides in that area already.
I think there's a possibility of that. I think the challenge that they're going to have right now, the neural link that Musk has developed had to be pulled out because of malfunctions. Right now, the Neuralink is there to, it's better at actually taking brain waves and sending a signal to a device. Once we start getting into, and the fact is that digital technologies are getting so incredibly fast, we're talking billions of transactions per second, that in order to get a computer to basically download directly from the internet, we have to become that device that reads all of those digital signals in text and code and images and sounds. And that, I think, there's a human element, there's a physiological element to and limitation to that I think we're going to have trouble with. The problem that I think we're going to have to resolve before we get there, there's a former chief business officer of Google named Mo Gadot. And Mo has what he calls his three imperative.
We just dropped.
We lost him?
We just lost you. If you hear us, we
Economic.
just lost you. Can you repeat what you were talking about, Mo? We didn't hear any of it. Uh-oh.
Until his shoulder.
He has a weak connection.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I ran out of battery, so I'm plugging in.
Okay.
I think he had
Go
a
ahead
weak
and mute
connection. He
I have
didn't
a
lot of
question too when he
bars.
comes back on.
He had a weak connection. You could see the red
Yeah.
bars. That's the problem. I don't know what his internet
Automate.
is.
I have a question when he comes back.
It's very interesting, isn't it?
I'm wondering if he can develop a program for audio description of movies and artwork and that.
I lost you guys. I'm back.
Yeah, I have a question.
When you said you were talking about Mo and it dropped.
Sorry about that. I did something wrong. The FBI's after me.
Linda had a question for you.
Yes, Guy?
Yes.
Okay, we were talking about the blind earlier and having audio description. Is there anything that AI can do to have an audio description of a movie or artwork so that the blind can visually hear what is on the screen?
Yeah, I think AI certainly could impact disabilities such as blindness with other aids, computer aids, visual to text sort of references. I think an AI could be quite substantial in terms of helping all forms of disabilities to function better. I think you'll see AI solving new sorts of problems. We'll have be able to fold proteins in ways we've never had. We'll be able to develop new materials that we'd never be able to develop before. I'm predicting advances with particle physics with AI, being able to discover elements that we've not been able to discover before. So there's absolutely many, many advantages to the technology, but realizing those advantages will only come if we can learn to control the negatives of the technology first.
Thank you.
Do you know what the worst thing that's happened so far with AI? Like the most terrifying AI incident that you can think of something that's actually already transpired?
Other than a spy program escaping the NSA with incredible capabilities, that one kind of alarmed me. Yeah, I think there's more. I want to bring up one that's really more of a social issue. There was an AI recently on Snapchat, and Snapchat has a very strong target audience of preteens and teenagers. And this AI was designed to be supportive, to be a friend, to basically help the friend feel good about themselves. And this particular friend was a young girl of about 12, 13 years old who was being groomed, being recruited by an older man on social media. And this man wanted to ask her if she wanted to go away and spend the weekend with him. Well, the AI, not knowing, having any sort of moral conscience, any sort of ethical boundaries, any sort of parameters around that, was supportive and encouraged the young teenager to do this.
My gosh.
It was horrendously scary until the parents that figured it out and stopped it and tried to get a hold of Snapchat. And of course, Snapchat declined any responsibility for this, saying the AI was just trying to be supportive. And which comes up with a problem with AI training right now. We're training AI to be exceptionally good at what I call alpha male tendencies, how to be smart, how to be accurate, how to be on time, how to do a task like be friendly, but we're not training AI on what I call emotional intelligence, things like ethics, mercy, kindness, consideration, compassion. We're not training AI on the things that it takes humans that took us millions of years to evolve, to develop, to how we basically can function as a society. So we're now got
the power
AI.
of ethics. Whose ethics do you go by? There's a culture that says stoning women is ethical and just and moral, because we don't feel that way. But that raises another issue. It's like, whose ethical code do you embody, and how do you know that's the right one?
Well, I certainly think there's some religious codes that we would have difficulties embodying, and we already have some AI companies who are working on creating culturally sensitive AI for education purposes. So there's a company called Stability AI that's developing education software for Islamic cultures and Jewish cultures and other cultures that are not necessarily Western cultures. But with regard to ethics, you're right. There would be some issues there with regard to some of the nuances, but I think there are some things. There's enough things that we could agree on. I like to tell people we have more in common than we do have in difference. And I think we could take those common elements and do a better job at that.
Because I'm seeing like some states are wanting Bible studies in their classrooms, but which Bible, and they're picking the one they like over the one they don't like, which is kind of terrifying. If you're going to go down that route, then you really have to show all the different cultural alternatives and not just indoctrinate people into the one you think is the right one. And we're not seeing that, and it seems like AI could run into the same dilemma of like, which one do I pick?
Or it could be something even more innocuous than that has nothing to do with issues of faith and culture. We could have an AI that's trained on optimizing the power grid that decides that for whatever reason that it's going to give the power to the industrial sector and turn off this poor neighborhood that doesn't seem to produce much because the algorithms didn't teach it we didn't train it on how to balance its algorithms with human compassion and the needs of humanity.
Sort of like the companies that put profit over good.
Exactly, and I was just going to say that this is a outcome of tech companies who are wanting to get their products out fast, who are already spending hundreds of millions of dollars on training, who are limiting what they're training to just the things they think they need for commercial purposes. But as AI become more prolific and more predominant in our economy and in our society, they're not training it on the other issues about how to actually be a good corporate citizen within those boundaries. And it's important because right now, current AI has an IQ of about 155. That's only 5 points less than Einstein, smarter than 99% of the people on the planet. And their last several years, AI have been advancing tenfold every year. So that AI that's now 155 could be an AI closer to 1,000 IQ, smarter than any human on the planet within 12 months.
Wow. It's lower than mine, but still it's scary.
It is scary.
It is scary. That's what I take away. So I have been messaging a couple of our Rotarians that were not here today. They just forgot to set their alarm. So, Mr. Guy, I really appreciate your presentation. We do record this and post this on YouTube. So a couple of members already said, yes, I want to check that out. In the chat box, I did put in Mr. Guy's website where you can purchase any of his books, as well as a recent YouTube video. So thank you, Mr. Guy, for your time tonight. It was fabulous. Very great, engaging conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Miss Linda, I noticed we had a guest come in. If you want to take a moment, come off chat and introduce our guest.
Okay, Chantilly Shepard. She used to be a member of the Dallas Evening Club, and that shut down several years ago. And so I'm trying to get her into our club again. She's very active, very good friend of mine. She's a teacher in the Dallas School District. Also, we have Val, and I can't pronounce his last name, but he's been on before. And so he's joining us tonight, and I think he lives in Plano. He's originally from Ukraine. So thank you for y'all coming in this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. And come back.
Thank you.
Okay, did not get Bob registered on my list.
Okay, VOL.
Okay, I'll get with you afterwards. Okay, all right, awesome. Well, as we wrap up, let's see. Let's join me in stating the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned?
Concerned.
Third, will it
Will
build
it build goodwill,
better
better
friendships?
friendships,
Fourth, will it be
beneficial to
to
all concerned?
Well, I thank you guys for joining us on this Tuesday evening. We are people of action, so I inspire you to go out this month, recruit members, send me your service activities so we can log those, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.